If I was to put money on it, I would say, yeah, Boogie's lying. That's a terrible argument for someone being a liar. That doesn't follow. So, Boogie's probably lied about his cancer. Let's be real. Let's be totally real. We know what Boogie's like. We know his behavior. So the idea that he's not just proving it for the money now is insane. Arguments Destiny made about this just irk me. They just irk me. Boogie is correct here, okay? He said he got a diagnosis. You can get a diagnosis without it being 100% confirmed. But people can't do that. People now have to go, oh, he must be, he's lying about the cancer. I don't understand. Walk what back? What are you asking for him to walk back? Everyone knows it's a tough sell. Everyone thinks, but I don't think there's a single person in chat who's unironically saying, I think Boogie's telling the truth. He's used it to sympathy bait. He's used the cancer as an excuse for why he ran the crypto scam. He's not asked for money. And this Boogie is kind of boring. Can't lie. No one's, just another case of just people just don't, people actually don't care about what's being said. It's just like, the entire basis for this being a lie is just, basically, it's Boogie saying it and he's acting like a liar. And it's like, I agree that, you know, if I was to put money on it, I would say, yeah, Boogie's lying. But that's nothing to do with the house impression that Destiny was doing on that, anything else last night. Because if you look up, like, anything he said there, it's just all wrong. It's just all wrong. Well, not all of it, but 90% of it. Acting like blood thinners can't be used as a cancer treatment. I Google it, and immediately, oh, they do use blood thinners to treat the symptoms of polycythemia vera. Now, I've been like looking at it. I'm pretty sure I see what's happened pretty clearly, and just it makes me even more frustrated because he's literally just read off like the Kiwi Farms thread. That's all he's done, and it's like, bro, where's the line? Can I now cross-examine stuff you've said on stream about your personal life based on what theory of spawn from Kiwi Farms? I thought you weren't down with that, Destiny. Whatever. Him said, no, well, Keith, you're immediately wrong. Bloodletting is used for polycythemia vera. So you're just immediately wrong. That's just, again. And then there's people saying that, he's going to be arrested. He should be arrested. That this is like fraud. This is, you know, he defrauded people by claiming to have cancer. He didn't, as far as I know, he never asked for money off the back of his cancer diagnosis. He sat there and sympathy baited and was like, "Oh, I'm on hard times right now. You know, I've got to go through. I'm going through my cancer treatment. I've got to pay for it all this." Sure, but I don't think you can. I don't know. There's precedent for charging someone for that. Yeah, he was posting, should I collect donuts? He asked, he polled, should I start a GoFundMe or something? And it got like 60% no, you shouldn't. And he didn't, as far as I can see, he didn't start it. So, I mean, it is exactly like that Sniper Wolf a couple days ago. But because, I don't know, I guess Destiny's come in and said something about medical stuff, so no one's going to question it, no one's going to Google it. Because as far as I can tell, Boogie has had... Well, I saw Big Bungie tweeting earlier. What did he post? Like, Big Bungie posted a tweet that Boogie made ages ago. Where he says, where is it? Here it is. Great news. With some diet and medication changes, we've got my red blood cell counts down to safe levels. Suck my actual polycythemia. I'm going to live forever. So, like, just saying polycythemia here, this is like a huge, huge red flag. That's like, well, okay. Which one is it, bro? But at the same time, just him saying, there are going to be people that are running with this part, this top part. We got my red blood cells down to safe levels. I'm pretty sure you can do that even if you've got the cancer. I think, as far as I understand. Again, it's like, I don't want to make firm statements on this because that would make me just as retarded. So I'm really trying to catch my language here. Yeah, and exactly. It's funny too because Destiny would put so many qualifiers on statements that don't need them, and he's just confidently wrong like this sometimes. Yeah, exactly. It just blows my... I just don't know what he's doing. It's like he just got... Like, I would never expect so many... I shouldn't say I should never expect... I would never expect, because I feel like every day at this point, or every few days, I'm saying that where I'm like, oh, I thought Destiny wouldn't do it. I thought Destiny was slightly above this. I thought Destiny's thought process was better than this. And I realize that's just the knotting. That's just the knotting. But I would never expect Destiny to go into a conversation and make so many confident assertions that someone's lying on such shaky grounds. Again, I'll say it, because it has to be said a million times. Because I truly do think Boogie's lying. Just based on everything I've seen, looks like he's lying. But that doesn't change that the arguments are fucking terrible. And those are the most frustrating situations, where people come to a probably correct conclusion through bad means. No, he didn't do 2 hours of research. Destiny did not do 2 hours of research. Destiny did 20 minutes of scrolling on a KF thread. Okay, I know he said 2 hours of research on anything else. He did. No way he did 2 hours of research. I don't believe that for a second. I don't know, because I was like, it was, yeah, I just don't believe it. Because he would have seen the exact same stuff I saw. He would have seen the explanation of how they diagnose it, and the first point, the first way they diagnose polycythemia vera, the first way they test for it, they do blood work, they check the hormone levels, and they, if you've got low EPO, it's likely that it's polycythemia vera. But usually people with secondary or no polycythemia have normal or high EPO levels. Exactly. Yeah, so stuff like this, like, I don't believe Boogie would pass up that money. This is a bad argument, right? I don't believe Boogie would pass up that money if he had that diagnosis sitting in front of him for a second. I simply don't. So I'm pretty, in my deep down, I'm confident. I'm like, okay, this guy, well, there's no way. But that's a terrible argument. That's a terrible argument. Just saying, oh, well, we berated this guy for a few hours on stream into showing us his medical history, and he wouldn't do it. That's a terrible argument for someone being a liar. That doesn't follow. But just based on what I know about Boogie's behavior and his situation, I'm like, well, I don't see why. This doesn't make any sense to me. But what are we going to do first? We're going to do the Woo stuff or the Boogie stuff? Woo? Yeah, I think that's a good play. We'll circle back round to Boogie, okay? I'll go over anything else. About this Destiny and Boogie confrontation, okay? Here's the thing. Boogie probably lied about cancer. I say probably, because obviously we can't know for sure. Oh, wow, I can't even pull it up on here. Okay. How is this age restricted? That must blow for August. Holy shit, he must be so mad. Can I pull this one up? Oh, that one isn't censored. Okay, I just want to pull up the Destiny part of this. So, Boogie's probably lied about his cancer. Let's be real. Let's be totally real. He's got inconsistent statements about it across the years. I've seen Big Bungie tweeting that he was calling it just polycythemia, like a little while ago. And obviously, we know Boogie, and the idea that he is going to refuse 80 grand, which is what ends up happening on his podcast. He ends up getting offered 80 grand to prove his cancer. The idea that he's going to refuse that it's insane. It completely goes beyond belief. Yeah, apparently he called a different cancer in his documentary too. I can't remember the name of it. Some other cancer called like carcinogen. Someone tell me the name of the cancer in the documentary. I'll read it off. Anyway, point is he's been inconsistent, and we know what Boogie's like. We know his behavior. So the idea that he's not just proving it for the money now is insane. However, The arguments Destiny made about this just irk me. They just irk me. It's gonna irk me. Because the idea that people are going along with this idea that Destiny came in and was Dr. Housing. He was like Dr. House and he totally owned Boogie on his disease. It's just not true. If you actually listen to some of the stuff Destiny says and look up the facts, he is wrong on several things. We'll go over it as far as I recall. I may have been half listening. We'll see. I'm not going to make firm statements just yet. But as far as I recall, he was wrong on several things. And I started looking into it a little bit and I was like, okay, well, that's not quite accurate. So we'll take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, a popular streamer by the name of Destiny.
Yeah. Where the fuck is our webcam at? Listen, probably OBS is using it. Oh my god! Hold on, we're turning the camera on.
Oh, you guys really ruined the intro. He gave you a big shout out.
Can you just shut the fuck up? Don't be so friendly.
Oh, there you go.
So obviously this was on anything else last night. They had XQC on, and then they called into LolcowLive too.
Oh my god, we're on. We're not X. We don't need him. Don't worry about him. Yeah, you're not. You can say whatever you want, and it's gonna be like we said it. All right, are we good to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
you're good.
Okay. Boogie2988, you are being confronted tonight.
go ahead.
I am 99% sure that you are faking.
No, don't move.
You are faking your cancer diagnosis, Boogie.
Okay, let's hear that.
Let's hear that.
Did the doctor ever tell you, or did he ever say the word cancer?
He said polycythemia vera, which is a form of cancer, as he explained it to me. And no, it is not secondary polycythemia, which is Nicholas Diorio's explanation for this bullshit.
So I think it is secondary polycythemia.
Well, then
can you explain?
Why would he call it polycythemia vera? Why would he tell me that I have hormone markers in my blood that tells me I have polycythemia vera? Why does he order a bone?
So immediately off the bat, Boogie is correct here. Okay, this does well. Sorry, I won't say it's correct. This does map onto a polycythemia vera diagnosis. The way they would initially diagnose it, as far as I understand it from the reading I've done, the initial diagnosis would be made via blood work, where they would do a CBC, so complete blood count, and they would see that you've got, what is it, more hemoglobin than normal, more red blood cells than normal, something else, hematocrit, I think, some shit like that. And then they would also check the hormones in your blood, and if you have a lower level of EPO, that indicates polycythemia vera. And if you have a normal or higher level of EPO, which is like postine or some shit like that, I don't know, then you're either likely to be fine or you've got secondary polycythemia.
Marrow biopsy to confirm it.
So the ultimate confirmation is made by either gene testing, where they look for I think it's like JAK2 mutation, or a bone marrow sample. Those are the two ways they make a proper confirmation. But you get an initial diagnosis based on, as far as I understand it, you would get an initial diagnosis based on your blood work and hormone. I can find the article I was looking at. So this is from the Hematology Oncology Associates of CNY. How is polycythemia vera diagnosed? As you'll see here. If your doctor confirms that you have polycythemia, the next step is to find out whether you have primary polycythemia vera, or secondary polycythemia. Your medical history and physical exam may confirm which type of polycythemia you have. If not, you may have tests that check the level of hormone erythropoietin, EPO, in your blood. People who have PV have very low levels of EPO. People who have secondary polycythemia usually have normal or high levels of EPO. So this does map on to what Boogie's saying so far.
Ordered a bone marrow biopsy to confirm it. It would be weird that you told us that you already had a diagnosis and a confirmation.
It did. See, Destiny just slipped in there. Diagnosis and a confirmation. Those are not the same thing. Those are not the same thing. You may often receive several diagnoses in the pursuit of ultimately confirming what your problem is. This is like pretty common with people who have long-lasting or like chronic medical issues, which polycythemia is. It's a chronic medical issue. So the idea that you haven't gotten a confirmation. What's your opinion? Is he lying or no? Yeah, I think he's probably lying just based on his behavior. But I'm pointing out that Destiny's arguments were fucking terrible, and that he came in way too hot, thinking he knew more about this than he did for some reason. I think he just skim read KF. I can only imagine.
Are in my blood. The hormone markers are in my blood, Destiny.
Correct. But you said that you'd received the diagnosis, but now you just told me you got a bone marrow biopsy.
It's a diagnosis, and now we're confirming. It's called a confirmation.
So it says that in here as well. Bone marrow tests. Bone marrow tests can show whether your bone marrow is healthy. These tests also show whether your bone marrow is making normal amounts of blood cells. For a biopsy, your doctor removes a small bone marrow tissue with a large needle or something examined. Tests show that your bone marrow is making too many blood cells. It may be a sign that you have PV. And so that's also part of the WHO guidelines for the diagnostic criteria too. Is the confirmation comes from either the bone marrow or the gene testing.
The hormone markers are already in my blood.
Yep. So I think
we are confirming it with the biopsy because I'm wanting to do that because I'm praying to God I don't fucking have cancer.
He doesn't care if you.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that doctors will usually, No, he didn't go through the bone marrow tests. Doctors will usually advise, if they think they know what it is, they will usually advise against getting bone marrow tests. Because bone marrow tests are expensive and invasive. Because obviously you have to, get bone marrow. Did you see Boogie's brother, who's a doctor, came out and staked his career over the fact Boogie has PV? That lends a bit of credibility. My understanding is that Boogie's brother isn't quite as fucked up as he is. So this actually, I would move from a 85% Boogie's lying to a 75% Boogie's lying based on this. Because my understanding is that Boogie's brother got out of the house a long time before he did, his childhood house where they were allegedly abused. That he feels a lot of regret about that and all this stuff, that he's been on Lolcow and confirmed some of the stories that Boogie's told about his childhood. Which I know it's funny to say Boogie's lying about his abuse, but no one ends up that fucked up without having something bad happening to him as a kid, let's be real. So, Boogie2988's biological brother, who's also a doctor, claims Boogie does in fact have cancer. To those of you who are trolling my brother, Boogie2988, I can confirm that his diagnosis of polycythemia vera is absolutely true. He has suffered with this debilitating condition for at least 2 years. I stake my reputation as a health professional on this fact. Oh, PhD, not MD. Yeah, but what type of doctor is he? I mean, yeah, what sort of what is Boogie's brother's credential here? Doc Brian. 6. What's his PhD in? Epidemiology. I mean, wait, you're saying cancer biology? I mean, look, this does bring me back a little bit. This brings me towards the center quite a bit. I would trust Boogie. I would put not trust. I would put some weight behind the words of Boogie's brother, personally. I think if someone's around Boogie's gonna know and gonna be honest about it, I think it's most likely to be his brother. I would put less stock in something maybe like Desi or whatever her name is. Is that her name? What she says? She's like the kid, isn't she? I would put less stock in what she says. I'd put less stock in whatever I think he's got a roommate says. But his brother, I would say, yeah, this guy seems a little bit more trustworthy. People lie to their families. Yeah, people do lie to their families, but he's not saying, Boogie told me this. He's saying, I can confirm that his diagnosis of polycythemia vera is absolutely true. So that implies that he may have, he could have dealt with... Boogie says that it's his family doctor, right? He goes to a family doctor that he's gone to for 12 years. It's very possible that, his brother has been involved with Boogie's care at some point. Like, he's gone to doctor's appointments with him or taken him there or something. That's totally within reason. There's plenty of ways that he could have direct knowledge of this. Obviously, Boogie could be lying to him. That's why I'm not saying it fully convinces me. But I would certainly put more weight in this than someone like Desi. Is that her name? That is her name, right?
Praying to God, I'm taking the 1 in a million fucking chance that they're fucking wrong, and that there's another reason that I have the hormone fucking imbalances in my blood.
Yeah, why are you praying to God 2 years after you said that you have cancer, that you don't have cancer?
Because 2 years ago, they told me I have polycythemia vera based.
No, this is retarded. Okay, I know everyone keeps clipping this. This is like, you have to be severely autistic, I think, to misinterpret this if you've sent it in context. He said at one point that the doctor he's been for 12 years was possibly a clout shot, kind of an odd response. Boogie was being pressed on whether there's any way he could have been, his doctor could have lied to him. And Boogie was saying, that's implausible, that's highly implausible, and then was giving a ridiculous situation which that would be true. It's like saying, if someone says, oh, but it's possible that Nazis could take over the country tomorrow. It's like, well, yeah, it's possible. It's possible in the middle of the night there could be a new Nazi party suddenly spring up and take over the whole country out of reform or something. Yeah, sure, that could happen. Because it's totally implausible. Because it's like it's a imagined reality. But that could be the case. He wasn't actually saying, yeah, I think my doctor's a clout shark.
On the fact that I had increased red blood cell counts, increased hemoglobin, and the hormone markers in my blood. And it all spelled pretty definitively that I have this. And so he wanted to get a bone marrow biopsy, but it is intrusive and expensive, so they decided to forego it. I would like to still get it done because I am hopeful, I am praying that there's a fucking merciful God of the world that would be willing to fucking let this be wrong, even though it most certainly is not.
So why are you talking about expensive cancer treatments if they don't even know if you have cancer? That nothing
Because
has been
they're treating it, dipshit. Because they've been treating it for 2 fucking years.
How are they treating it, Boogie?
What? This is like such a stupid thing as well. He's got an initial diagnosis. They've looked at his blood, assuming that what he's saying is true, which I don't. But the story as being told, I should say, the story as being told, and the framework for diagnosing and treating this stuff, as laid out in numerous sources online, is you would get an initial test for blood work and hormones. And then the thing is that the treating it is actually pretty similar between polycythemia and polycythemia vera because they both refer to the same set of symptoms. You've got too much hemoglobin, too much red blood cells. You're producing too much blood. So you use stuff like blood thinners and bloodletting to try and ease the symptoms and manage the symptoms, as Boogie's going to explain. So they would still be, you could still treat it without getting that full confirmation of a cancer diagnosis, especially when it's like so you can't cure polycythemia vera. Like you can't. There's no way to like attack the cancer cell directly. I think Boogie explains that here too. So it's more like a chronic illness. It's just sort of something you have to kind of live with and manage, right? You don't get rid of it.
Blood test, blood thinners, bloodletting, medications. They're trying to get my weight down. I'm seeing the doctor every 3 fucking months. I'm doing blood tests every
But so it's not a transplant, and it's not the last thing you need for official diagnosis. There's 2 things that you can get. You can be there's no such thing as like what is an official diagnosis? When a doctor tells you this is what we think's wrong with you, that's a diagnosis. It may not be 100% confirmed, but that's a diagnosis. They're saying this is what we think's wrong with you. That is a diagnosis. A confirmation can come from from some specific testings and specific things. But people with chronic illnesses will often go through several diagnoses throughout the course of possibly years, trying to figure out what the exact right one is so that they can address the problem properly. And they'll try different treatments along that way. So the idea that, oh, well, Boogie, you don't have a real cancer diagnosis because you haven't had the incredibly invasive procedure of a bone marrow biopsy. So you don't have a cancer diagnosis. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. That's actually not necessarily true. It might, like Boogie's saying, it just might not be confirmed. Again, Boogie, it comes off like he's lying. I'll say this again because people just so retarded. It comes off like he's lying. I would put money on him lying because I don't see how he would reject 80 grand for just proving his medical history to Keemstar or whatever. I don't know how he rationalizes not accepting that. But the arguments being used are fucking terrible.
Fucking month. We're doing it.
So they don't know
Yeah,
if
what
you
do
have
you wanna
cancer or
know?
not. So can I understand
You're
this?
gonna hold my fucking hand.
Can I, yeah,
They're-
So, I mean,
We know he never did the bone marrow stuff. We know he never did the bone marrow stuff. Bone marrow stuff isn't necessary for a diagnosis in every case. It's not necessary for diagnosis at all. You can get it with gene testing, can replace the bone marrow test.
I can explain. So I can explain everything, right?
Right.
So Boogie
Go
has a
ahead.
condition called polycythemia, which means there's an elevation.
Polycythemia?
Boogie has said yes, we know. He did not get the gene test or the biopsy. Correct. Yes, he can still have a diagnosis. What you're saying makes it totally irrelevant. You can still have a diagnosis. Just because you don't have the confirmation, just because you don't have the full saying he has cancer without it being confirmed. No, people are saying he lied about having cancer. People are saying he faked cancer. Not that his doctor told him that, oh, this is probably cancer, but we would need to 100% confirm to be totally sure, but it definitely looks like cancer. And then he went on social media and said, guys, I've got cancer. And that's a slight overstatement of how likely it is that he's got cancer. That's not the complaint. That would be a fucking retarded complaint. How could you even think that was the complaint? They're saying he faked it. No, that wouldn't even be Keem's story. That wouldn't even be Keem's story. Keem's story would still portray worse than that. Yeah, literally, you can't. How do you confirm a mental health condition? Exactly, right? But we diagnose them all the time. He definitely jumped the gun and has since probably found out he doesn't have cancer. I mean, you can say that, but there's like it's just based on nothing, right? I mean, I'm saying I think Boogie's lying based on the vibes. That's all, and that's just literally that is my position. But there is no good argument for Boogie lying here other than just saying, I think Boogie's a liar and he's behaving like a liar right now. I think he says at one point, I think to be fair, Boogie at one point refers to the cancer as producing a hormone, which would be incorrect. That would actually be incorrect because it doesn't produce a hormone. It's that you have less EPO if you have a cancer version. Now, could that indicate that maybe he lied about which polycythemia it is? It could, but it could equally indicate that Boogie doesn't know fuck all about his own condition and just half listens to what his doctor says, like most patients, like someone said in chat, which would imply there was a confirmation. When did he say it was confirmed? When did he say it? He said he didn't get the confirmation. He said he got a diagnosis.
Frugal super chatted $3.38. Put this money towards your cancer treatment.
Thank you for the $5, Frugal. He said he got a diagnosis. You can get a diagnosis without it being 100% confirmed. So this argument that, oh, you didn't get a confirmation, that's just retarded. It is just retarded. And anyone that knows anything about health knows that. Anyone that's ever been to a fucking doctor's office knows that.
Let him talk, you fat fuck. I want to hear the guy that actually knows something.
Polycythemia vera.
Destiny, go ahead.
He knows more about my fucking medical
Yes, I guarantee. Well,
go right the fuck ahead. I was in the fucking room. My girlfriend was in the fucking.
No, it's not secondary PV. Again, it's polycythemia vera is cancer. Secondary polycythemia is a different thing. He specifically said he did not have secondary polycythemia. He specifically said it's not that. It is polycythemia. So it's not a chance he's leaving it out. No. He would either be deliberately lying, or he's somehow confused it, or he's telling the truth.
You are filibustering.
It can't be that he's just leaving part of it out.
Destiny. Go right
You are filibustering, sir.
Be nice. Be nice.
Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead. Okay, so I think that Boogie was told that he has polycythemia, which means he has an elevation of his red blood cells. Now, there is a cancer known as polycythemia vera, which is caused by a mutation in some part of your body that causes an elevation of 3 different levels of things you'll find. One of those is the red blood cell count. However, when Boogie was talking about the polycythemia, he mentioned a couple things that I thought were interesting. The first was that taking an exogenous hormone, TRT, testosterone, that caused a increase in him developing this condition. So taking testosterone.
See, I want to know the source for this because I want to know what Boogie actually said, because this is inconsistent with polycythemia vera. If he actually said that his doctor told him that this was caused by taking Tren or whatever, then that would sound retarded. That wouldn't make sense because that's not going to cause polycythemia vera. However, it could be the case that what happened with Boogie and what he's recounting, and this makes total sense, is that when he started on Tren, he was told by his doctor, "Oh yeah, there's a risk of you developing polycythemia. You're in the risk factors for polycythemia." And then he gets polycythemia vera, and then he retroactively, testosterone, and then he retroactively fits it, and he's like, "Oh, I must have gotten this because I started doing testosterone." But obviously, if the story that Destiny's quoting here is Boogie saying, "Oh yeah, my doctor caused it. My doctor said it was caused by this," then yeah, that would sound inconsistent with someone diagnosing polycythemia vera. It would sound more like his doctor was diagnosing polycythemia.
Will not cause you to develop a cancer. That doesn't, not for this particular cancer, it won't. It will cause you to develop secondary.
Okay, you can say it's pretty clear that it's just retarded. Okay. Portland, I think you're lying about having a dad. Give me your dad's address and your dad's name, and I'll give you 10 grand. Like, you can't just press someone for personal information, or doing carrot and stick on them, and then say, "Oh yeah, that's my argument for why they're lying." That does give me the vibe that he's lying, obviously. I can't rationalize that behavior. I can't rationalize why he would share everything else, but not that. But the fact is that it's a terrible argument. You can't prove a lie off of that. You cannot prove that. Again, yes, this is a better argument. The Mike Clume documentary says basal cell carcinoma. Doesn't talk about any other cancer, much less than PV. Exactly. So that's a better argument, is inconsistent reporting of what his illness is. That's better. But the stuff Destiny's throwing out here, the idea that you can just push someone to reveal private information and then use the fact that they're not revealing the private information as proof that they're lying about it, that's retarded. That's so dumb.
Polycythemia. The second thing that he mentioned was that his doctor ordered a sleep study. That's because one of the things that can cause your body to produce more red blood cells is if you have hypoxemia, which is a lower count of, or a low amount of oxygen in your blood for an extended period of time. And the reason why he ordered that sleep study is probably because Boogie either has
he says history. Oh, we've got some contention in chat. That's wrong. In the documentary, he says he has a history of basal cell carcinoma. That could just be family history, indicating he has a greater chance of cancer. What is basal cell carcinoma? It's skin cancer. He's had skin cancer. He's said that before. He has said before that he has had skin cancer in the past. Like, outside that documentary, he said that a long time ago, I believe. So that's not inconsistent. He didn't mention the polycythemia vera in the documentary, it doesn't sound like. But he has had skin cancer in the past. So you can say, oh, well, he didn't mention it in the documentary, but that's different saying the story's inconsistent. He didn't replace it with a different disease. He had that other thing and didn't mention the new one.
Pulmonary obstructive,
so that's not even
something, or he has, as he mentioned, sleep apnea. And sleep apnea, which is a decrease in oxygen overnight, can lead to a decrease in oxygen in your.
Yeah, but again, pointless burning. Just badgering someone for information, and then when they refuse to give it, accusing them of lying, isn't actually a good argument. He's not been really caught in any mistruth here. Like, there's no part of the story that doesn't line up really. Like there's a couple of things that he said that aren't true about polycythemia vera, but there's plenty of things that could explain that other than just lying.
Blood, which could lead to an increase in the production of red blood cells. All of the things that Boogie described, both the things that cause this and the treatments for it, are consistent with secondary polycythemia. None of these are consistent with cancer, and the fact that he's saying that they've now ordered a biopsy 2 years.
Okay, again, this is a stupid argument. This new cancer is something he wants to keep private. All the other health issues are on the table, Lamau. No. He never posted his medical history. He's never posted his medical history in public, or as far as I know, sent it to people. It's not something new that he's keeping private. He has talked about it to the same length that he's spoken about his other health issues. He'll give you extensive detail, but he's not giving his medical history. You're getting many guide by the chat like crazy. Yeah, because everyone just has gone with dumb narratives on this. Because it's easy to just say Boogie's lying. It's very easy to do that, and it's not very easy. In fact, it is very easy. People are just so fucking lazy that they won't spend 5 seconds going, I wonder if that thing Destiny said about cancer in that debate is actually true. Maybe I should Google it and look at a webpage for 2 seconds.
After, wait, 2 years later.
May I review?
He's not done.
Okay.
I think Boogie's lying based on vibes. I think Boogie's lying based on vibes and how he behaves, but the arguments are terrible. If I were to bet, I would bet on Boogie lying. But the arguments are bad. Nothing has been proven, and the arguments are fucking terrible.
Not done.
Yeah, 2 years ago, you said that you had a cancer diagnosis, but now you just said now they're doing a biopsy.
Jimberly, you have a source on that? I think the doctor said that they have to look at his TRT to see if changing the dosage would help. Because that would imply that they tried changing the dosage as part of checking whether it was PV, secondary PV, or secondary polycythemia, sorry, or polycythemia vera. Because if changing the dosage worked, that would imply that the polycythemia was being caused by something else that wasn't cancer. Right? But the overproduction was caused by something else, such as hormone usage. Not 2 years later. No, Destiny's quoting Boogie saying something about testosterone causing the polycythemia.
Confirmation.
Is this false MD? Are we treating a blood cancer without actually confirming it yet? For 2 years, you've been having a cancer treatment without confirming there's actually cancer there?
Because it was in my blood markers, and that's pretty.
Again, Destiny's acting incredulously at this. This is not that crazy. A doctor will often recommend against bone marrow transplant, bone marrow biopsies. Fuck, Moody Morgan's fucked me up saying transplant a minute ago. Bone marrow biopsies. They will often advise against that because they're highly invasive, and if they've got enough information to treat or to identify the problem without that, then obviously there's no need to do that.
Goddamn definitive. You can Google that, Destiny. When you have the hormones, when you have the hormone in the blood, that is.
But Kui, this isn't much more important because of what he said with CoffeeZilla regarding scamming people out of 10k he couldn't refund because of cancer. Coffee responded to this and stemming. You can say it's bad to say you can't refund people from a scam because you've got cancer. But that's a different claim to Boogie is lying about having cancer. And you need different arguments for that. You can say, I think it's bad that he deflected criticism from a bad action he did using cancer as an excuse. That's a criticism that stands on its own. But people can't do that. People now have to go, oh, he's lying about the cancer. Okay, well, why is he lying about the cancer? Well, Destiny showed that he had all the details wrong. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. It doesn't seem like Boogie's got any of the details wrong, other than at one point he says that the hormones were increased, when the reality is they would be decreased. Well, he didn't even say they would be increased. What Boogie said was that the cancer produces a hormone, or produces a hormone marker. Which obviously, that's a very retarded, easy mistake to make. It's also reasonable to say, this is a totally reasonable position too. If Boogie is going to use the cancer treatment for sympathy online and to try and garner donations, try and boost his channel, he should have to prove it. People who make big claims about illnesses to try and garner sympathy online should have to prove it. That's a reasonable claim to make. But that is also a completely different assertion that stands completely on its own from Boogie is lying. which you simply can't prove. So why wouldn't you take the 80k, substantially save his livelihood? Who cares if Destiny is right? His actions make no sense given what he said. Boogie said that he made the decision from the start to never show his medical documents. Now, you can say, I think that's an absurd position to take. I think that given Boogie's position, that's absurd, and it makes me doubt him. Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. It does make me doubt him. It does make me doubt him. That's why I would probably bet on Boogie lying about this. But it doesn't prove anything, and it's a terrible argument. You can't assert a lie based on that. You can just say, it doesn't make sense. I can't find a reasonable explanation for this.
Produced by this cancer, it's pretty goddamn definitive. It doesn't show up for just the shit sakes of it.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Look, you want to keep saying you're the patient, you know what your body has.
Yes.
When I go to the doctor, they give me shit like this, which is like papers that will tell me.
I was gonna say, Boogie can have this whole thing. Tell me a single document with polycythemia vera on it. You don't have one. I don't think the doctor ever diagnosed you with it.
Can I ask you something, Destiny? Is it possible that when the doctor was seeing him, they were asking you could have polycythemia, if I'm saying it correctly, or polycythemia vera, but you don't have the cancer version, you have this version. Is that possible? I'm asking him. Is it? It could be like a loss of translation type situation.
Yeah. So polycythemia just means you have an elevation of red blood cells. That's all it means. Your red blood cell count is high.
So you could just be fat and sleep apnea can create that, because I'm both.
Sleep apnea could do it. Yeah. Anything. Sure. Yeah. Like that could cause it. And the fact that Boogie said, we knew that when I was taking TRT, this was a risk of that. That means that risk is to develop secondary polycythemia. That was the risk, and then that is what ended up happening, unfortunately. But it's not cancer. That was induced because of just a low oxygenation of the blood.
So why? Explain to me, Destiny, why there are markers.
So Destiny can say that, but that's just like he's asserting that on essentially nothing. Like, what is the quote where Boogie said that? Like, does anyone have this quote that Destiny's referring to? Because this makes no sense to me that Boogie would say definitively, "Oh yeah, my polycythemia was caused by TRT." Because I've got no idea where this quote's coming from. It's in his video saying it's cancer. I have a rare form of cancer. Is it this one?
I often say, though, every day that I wake up is a good day. It's the one day that I don't wake up that sucks. So I've been debating for a while to talk to you guys about polycythemia vera, which basically makes your body produce too many red blood cells. And when I started taking that testosterone supplement 7 or 8 years ago, however long it's been, we knew that this was a possibility.
It's exactly what I said.
Dude,
it's exactly what I said. The other explanation of this makes so much sense. It's exactly what I said. 7 or 8 years ago, he gets told by a doctor when he starts a testosterone supplement, there's a risk of you developing polycythemia from this. 7 or 8 years later, he talks to his doctor and he's told, you have polycythemia vera. And then he says in his video, talking about the fact that he has this, he's like, oh yeah, we knew this was a risk 8 years ago. But that's not evidence of him lying. That just shows that this retard doesn't know the difference, or didn't know the difference. It's actually, he's recalling information he was given 7 or 8 years ago, and the only explanation you can give is that he's lying about it. It's like so dumb.
Hormone markers in my blood that have tested positively for polycythemia vera. Explain that.
If there was
medical papers, dude.
I'm never showing any of these motherfuckers my medical papers. Go fuck yourself. I said that 2 years ago, and I'm staying by it now. Destiny, Jackson, Clark, Keemstar, you can see it when I fucking die. It's my fucking goddamn medical record. I've given you every goddamn phone call. I've given you every fucking text. I've given you, it's never made a single goddamn thing better. I'm not gonna fucking do it. Go fuck yourselves.
You could easily end this right now by just showing
I would rather you motherfuckers continue to LARP. I would rather you motherfuckers continue to LARP than to have the last goddamn thing. The last goddamn thing.
You're the one who accused of LARPing.
The fucking security I have in the fucking world.
You're the one being accused of
LARPing. The easy thing here is if there are blood markers that definitively.
I don't understand. Walk what back? What are you asking for him to walk back?
Confirm polycythemia vera as a blood cancer, then why are they doing a biopsy?
Because I'm insisting on it, because I'm hoping they're
Again, Destiny's being retarded here. You do, based on the blood markers, you can get a diagnosis. The doctor will say, oh yeah, you've got low EPO. That looks like polycythemia vera. Now, in some cases, if there's not enough information based on your physical exam and stuff like that to confirm it, they will order a biopsy. In other cases, they won't. In many cases, they'll advise against it because it's a very invasive procedure. Just...
They're wrong.
No, wait. Why would you have to insist on a biopsy if you can confirm with a with blood markers? It's because you can't.
Hoping that I are wrong. Because I'm hoping they're wrong.
You're hoping they're wrong. Then why 2 years ago were you talking about fighting cancer? Why would you be talking about? I have been
for 2 years, Destiny.
Fighting cancer.
Again, he would have a chronic illness that is a form of cancer.
Sir, how? With what? With blood thinners?
Because
this one's for you.
Because oh god damn it. Because you treat polycythemia vera almost identically to the way that you treat polycythemia, because you can't attack the cancer directly. All you can do is treat the symptoms, and the
like what Boogie's saying here is true.
Symptoms are identical to polycythemia because it's the same fucking thing, with the exception of one's getting caused by an external source and the other's being caused by fucking cancer. And in this case, it's getting caused by fucking cancer, Destiny.
You should start.
So I do think there are different treatments available for polycythemia vera, and I think that the...
Yeah, what are the different treatments available for polycythemia vera? Because the all I can see is stuff, the same stuff as polycythemia. Lobotomy, low-dose aspirin, treatments to reduce itching, drugs that reduce red blood cell count, bone marrow transplant, supportive care. Polycythemia treatments, secondary. Yeah, so again, bloodletting, aspirin, antihistamines to reduce itching. I mean, yeah, the treatments are the same. Again, what treatment is Destiny saying about polycythemia that's different to polycythemia vera? I genuinely don't know. He said there's different treatments. He hasn't backed that up at all. I don't know what when I look, I can't see different treatments. I would love to know what they are, because what Boogie's saying about his treatment's accurate. Sometimes they use drugs like hydroxyura to reduce red blood levels, but they don't like to use them. When it becomes spent and progresses, there are specific tyrosine kinase inhibitors to treat it. None of it is relevant. Okay.
The outcomes for that are significantly worse than just having it induced by some other thing like sleep apnea or hypoxia. But I mean, if you wanted to,
it's pretty identical. The treatment plan is pretty identical.
So that's just, I believe that's pretty true. I believe that's correct.
If there are two huge things. So one, you could show it to a private party and they could confirm, somebody like Keemstar. But two, the issue is that if you want to keep your medical issues to yourself, I think everybody is entitled to that right, obviously.
I should have never talked about it to begin with. This is one of the reasons I was going to do a GoFundMe. This is one of the reasons I was going to do a GoFundMe, was because they verify, for the record. They verify. That would be the third party that I would go forward with.
Yeah, so GoFundMe does not do the best verification, as has been proven multiple times in the past.
Boogie should do a GoFundMe. I'm supporting Boogie's GoFundMe, okay? I won't put any money into it. I ain't giving this fat fuck any of my money. I'm supporting Boogie making a GoFundMe, and I hope everyone goes and mass reports it. And I hope that Boogie goes and sends off whatever his medical records are to GoFundMe, and then people have to see about the GoFundMe verification process. And if there's a problem with it, then maybe they can tear it all down and we get Keffels incarcerated. Okay? I'm a GoFundMe accelerationist. Fuck it.
But the issue is that you say that you shouldn't have talked about it, but the fact is that you did. You did the day that you got the diagnosis. You're like, well, I was considering doing this, but I just got my diagnosis today. So you weren't doing it instantly.
I sat on it for a while.
Wait, on your tweet, did you not say that I got my diagnosis today and then talk about it?
They told me, okay. They told me in the office that they were worried about it. Then they did the blood tests. Then, yes, I did tweet about it on the day that I got confirmation. But I sat on it for a couple of months before, or for a couple of weeks before talking about it, because it took a while for us to get the blood results back.
So you sat on it when you didn't know the answer? That's not called sitting on it. That's just called waiting for an answer.
He crushed
also,
it.
if you were so keen on diagnosing whether you had cancer or not, why would you wait 2 years to get the biopsy?
Followed my Twitter before, but I tend to tweet shit as it happens. This one I decided to stand on for a little while.
Real-time news, motherfucker.
I don't know.
It's obviously, it's phrasing that's deliberately trying to downplay Boogie's sympathy baiting here. But I mean, I get what he's saying. When he says he sat on it, what he means is the doctor raised it as a potential issue, and then they sent off tests. He didn't speak about it until the test came back. But he's obviously deliberately phrasing it in such a way that downplays his culpability for the sympathy baiting and makes it seem like he's not desperate for attention at all times when he is.
I understand why you're waiting.
I just don't think this is evidence of lying.
His cancer's pretty fucking serious.
There is no
His
cancer.
cancer's pretty fucking serious.
It's secondary polycythemia. There is no cancer here. There's no proof of it. You can't show anybody proof of it because it's not real. And yeah, I don't know. As somebody that like his mom had cancer, it's just a little bit gross. I feel like when people are talking publicly about fighting cancer and stuff.
The person that faked cancer before, the chick. You know who I'm talking
about. Oh yeah, only had cancer once. Yeah.
I remember. That's vintage.
Emily from RuneScape.
There's so many people that don't know that meme right now.
Can I ask Boogie? Is it possible that you just jumped the gun on releasing your diagnosis thing?
No.
You don't think you jumped the gun?
Anything is possible, sure.
I just don't understand why you won't just go grab a piece of paper and just disprove them. Like you
I don't have
all these feelings.
Because they don't have
nothing with those words on it.
And like I said a year ago, when these motherfuckers tried to get it, hold on. This is the one last thing I have left. You motherfuckers were in my marriage. You guys were in everything else. You're in every aspect of my life. Fuck you. Let me have one goddamn thing.
You're trying to tell me.
Let me have cancer.
I would rather Dexerto tomorrow lead Boogie lies about cancer than to hand this shit over to you pieces of shit. That's just. I'd rather do that. I'd rather do that. Go ahead, print it, Dexerto. Go ahead and print it.
Can you get your patient portal up on your phone and like send it to Tommy?
I'm not going to. Sure,
he's never doing that. He does not have a cancer diagnosis. There's 0% chance he has one. Every leading thing for this cancer diagnosis the doctor talked about has to do with secondary polycythemia. The sleep apnea was a contributor to that, and the TR.
Where's this sleep apnea claim? Where's that come from? I haven't heard him mention sleep apnea.
Up is a good day. It's the one day that I don't wake up that sucks. So I've been debating for a while to talk to you guys about this, but I hope it brings you guys a little bit of clarity about some of the videos I've made in the last month or so. Cancer called polycythemia vera, which basically makes your body produce too many red blood cells. And when I started taking that testosterone supplement 7 or 8 years ago, however long it's been, we knew that this was a possibility. You never think you're going to be.
So he says this, where he says 7 or 8 years ago, I was told that there was a risk of developing this, which, you know, there's no way of knowing whether he's mixing that up or not. It's not a very good argument he's lying that he says this, because he's recalling information from 8 years ago.
Side effect, though, right? You never think it's going to be you. But sometimes it is. It has to be somebody. But the good news is, I mean, this is a disease that takes a really long time to get you. Statistically speaking, I'll die of a blood clot or a heart attack or a stroke due to one of those blood clots. And most people, after getting diagnosed, live another 20 years. So if you're going to get a cancer, this is the one to get. You know me and my dark sense of humor. When my doctor told me all of this, I said, if I die of cancer, doc, instead of my morbid obesity, which I've been working so hard on for the last 30 years, I'm going to be pissed. And well, the good news is, it might just give me a stroke or heart attack, which is how I was going out anyway. The scary thing about it is that it eventually can lead to some health conditions, some of which I already have: arthritis, stomach ulcers, leukemia. It could definitely develop into leukemia, but the good news is that's pretty rare, so I don't think that's going to happen. And there's tons of different ways to treat it. I mean, they can draw your blood, like when they donate blood, or taking a daily aspirin is going to help, getting something to help reduce the itching, which has been really rough for me over the few years, drugs that reduce the blood cell count, and, you know, things along that lines. It's pretty basic, easy stuff.
Lino super chatted $4.99. He has it. He is 200 pounds plus.
Okay.
He has sleep apnea.
Thank you for $4.99. The question about whether he has sleep apnea, the question is about whether the doctor said that was one of the causes of his, I've already forgotten the fucking name of the disease, man.
Especially at the stage I'm at, all they really want me to do is get a sleep study done, a colonoscopy done, and start taking an aspirin. So that's pretty cool. The biggest problem is the best thing for me to do in this situation is to lose some weight as much as I can. I mean, my eating disorder, well, I haven't been able to make that work so far. And I don't know if I have what it takes to
wow, cool.
To even along that lines. It's pretty basic, easy stuff, especially at the stage I'm at, to lose some weight. Taking an aspirin, so that's pretty cool. The biggest problem is the best thing for me to do in this situation is to lose some weight.
They want him to a sleep study and a colonoscopy. Let's have a look. Okay, so a colonoscopy would be done on a patient that has polycythemia vera, as far as I can tell. Or there are situations where it would be. Like, I'm reading a case study here that says 59-year-old male with a history of polycythemia vera, presented with abdominal pain and hematochezia, colonoscopy and histopathological examination results indicated suspected ischemic bowel disease. Following experimental anticoagulant therapy for 7 days, patient no longer experienced abdominal pain. So PV does cause IC. So yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, a colonoscopy would be consistent with polycythemia vera. Now, what would a sleep study? Okay, let's just do. I'm bitching about Destiny not actually looking at stuff up, or people who watch it not looking at stuff up. So let's actually do it. Exploring sleep studies, potential diagnostic tool for polycythemia. Oh, an Indian perspective. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay. Obstructive sleep apnea does not exclude polycythemia vera from case reports in oncology. Polycythemia vera is one of the neoplasms diagnosed by WHO, which requires the presence of 3 major criteria: hemoglobin, hematocrit, bone marrow findings, and JAK2 mutation, or 2 major and 1 minor criteria, including EPO level. However, in clinical practice, difficulty in the diagnosis can arise as it may be masked by secondary causes or erythrocytosis, which I think is lower EPO, such as smoking or obstructive sleep apnea. Morbidly obese with OSA on home continuous positive airway pressure CPAP machine, who incidentally found to have polycythemia. Further evaluation confirmed the diagnosis of PV. PV can be masked by the assumption of secondary polycythemia based on history. This underscores the importance of screening such cohort through JAK2 and EPO testing to avoid the missing PV. So yeah, it seems like you tried to disqualify PV. And once you've disqualified PV, then you can say it's polycythemia. Right? That's how it seems. Yeah, sleep apnea can interfere with the diagnosis. Can cause the same symptoms. Well, polycythemia is just a description of the symptoms, right? I think.
Obviously, I want to get the sleep study done, update my CPAP machine, get the colonoscopy done, make sure there's no other issues to worry about. I'm going to continue to try to lose weight and continue to try to improve my brain and try to continue to work here on YouTube, and hopefully people will watch. Maybe they won't. You know, that's okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm not saying what the inconsistency is. I'm not saying where the inconsistency is in his recollection of the diagnosis here.
Except for the hormone markers in my blood. Except we're conveniently.
Yeah, but if you had hormone markers for it, that's either a definitive diagnosis, in which case you wouldn't be getting a biopsy 2 years later, or it wasn't definitive, and you would have gotten a biopsy 2 years later instead of saying they're treating you for cancer for 2 years. You just said before that you don't have the money for extra medical stuff if they don't need that test for biopsy. Yeah, but if you had hormone markers for secondary polycythemia, the sleep apnea was a contributor to that, and the TRT was a contributor to that.
Except for the hormone markers in my blood. Except we're conveniently.
Yeah, but if you had hormone markers for it, that's either a definitive diagnosis, in which case you wouldn't be getting a biopsy 2 years later, or it wasn't definitive, and you would have gotten a biopsy 2 years later instead of saying they're treating you for cancer.
Again, I think you can get a diagnosis, but it wouldn't be definitive. Like the confirmation would come from the bone marrow or gene sampling, but you can still get, if you've got low EPO, I think you can still be diagnosed with it. That's what he said on the that Society for whatever it was. Hematology Oncology Associates of CMY. I mean, we can look somewhere else as well. Anyway.
Cancer for 2 years. You just said before that you don't have the money for extra medical stuff if they don't need that test to confirm cancer. Why would you spend extra money on a biopsy you don't need?
Have you heard of this, Destiny? I just got a bit of a windfall. You might have heard about it.
You may have heard of it. We have.
What's a windfall?
He did a $10,000 crypto scam, using partly his cancer thing as an excuse for why he needed to scam his fans.
I just wanted. I wanted to. I want to join real quick because you just got caught lying about.
One is dependent on the high EPO, the other is mediated by the JAK2 signaling pathway. What? So that I assume PV is mediated by JK2 because that's going to be the JK access mutation. Okay.
Not me, to CoffeeZilla. All right. And now you're being confronted. And now you're being confronted on one of the biggest lies on internet history.
I don't consider him.
And you won't prove it?
No.
You won't prove it?
I'd rather you go ahead and print it.
If this is true, and you lied about cancer, this is the biggest scandal on the fucking internet.
It's not, but go ahead and print it anyway. Go ahead and print it anyway.
It's going.
I pretty much prove it. None of you motherfuckers.
Fucking
I said this
prove
2
it.
years ago, and I'm not doing it today. Go right ahead. Print it. Print it the way it is. Go right ahead.
So gay.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I feel he does himself no favors back now. Such an annoying homo.
So I guess just to wrap up, because we don't want to take all you guys.
I mean, this is what makes me think it's like. This is why I would bet on it being a lie too, as well. To be honest, it's like because why would you not just own the haters? Why would you not just own the A-logs right here, right now?
Tonight. So just as a couple things, right? So the story as laid out, if you look up secondary polycythemia versus polycythemia vera, all of the leading things that Boogie talks about leading to his condition are consistent with secondary polycythemia, not the mutation that would cause polycythemia vera. The things that Boogie says that his doctor wants him to check for afterwards, like doing a sleep study, are consistent with secondary polycythemia, not primary polycythemia. And the fact that he says with doctor wants him to check for afterwards, like doing a sleep study, are consistent with secondary polycythemia, not primary polycythemia.
So that's just. I mean, we just looked at something that says that's wrong. You'd still use a sleep study, right? Like you, just because you've done a sleep study, that doesn't disqualify PV. Okay, it's more. Yeah, true. One case report. Okay, let's look into it more. Sleep study, polycythemia. How old is this as well? 2024. Hey, this is actually fucking recent. Where was this done? Was it Boogie? How old is Boogie? Oh, it's a bunch of. They're all Muslim names. Surely not. Yeah, I just. I don't think that necessarily having a CPAP machine or a sleep study done it disqualifies it from being a attempt to diagnose. It doesn't follow that means he doesn't have this diagnosis. Whatever.
Polycythemia vera. The things that Boogie says that his doctor wants him to check for afterwards, like doing a sleep study, are consistent with secondary polycythemia. Not
okay, but the colonoscopy is consistent with PV.
Primary polycythemia. And the fact that he says, the fact that he says that he had the blood markers or something to confirm it 2 years ago, but is now getting a biopsy for secondary confirmation, even though he says he doesn't have the money for medical bills, but I guess now that he does have
he never said he is getting the biopsy, so he still wanted to get a biopsy, even though they were advising against
money. He's going to waste all of it on biopsying things that are already confirmed, or at least confirmed enough that he wanted to talk about it publicly for 2 years ago, and then use it to fundraise the money that he now has so that he can do the biopsy. But I don't think he's doing, by the way, I don't think he's actually doing that.
So Dustin, to summarize,
if he wanted to disprove it, all he has to do is show a private party this particular medical thing, and yeah, it would be.
To summarize this.
Holy shit! Some in Portland. Seriously, I genuinely cannot express how dumb I find some people. Boogie says he's leaving the internet. He's so broke he's selling the house. But he won't accept 65k to just throw a single person a shred of evidence he has cancer. It's a really tough sell. Wow, no one's trying to sell you that. Isn't that crazy how no one here is trying to sell anyone that? They're just pointing out how fucking terrible the arguments being made are. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy how people online are actually so fucking stupid, man? It's so annoying. Every time you talk about anything. Oh, this is a bad argument, actually. Why are you defending that person? Oh, that doesn't actually prove that. What you're saying they're telling the truth? You're saying they're telling the truth. Dude, seriously. You all need to just fuck off. I wish I didn't have to speak to people that were like sub 15 years old in terms of reading comprehension. It's crazy. Or like,
so you're basically saying he's kind of unlucky he doesn't have cancer.
I mean, for this particular case, yeah. If you want, if Boogie can confirm, that he has polycythemia vera, and he actually has like a doctor confirmation of the blood cancer, I'll throw $5,000 towards his medical treatment. I'll make that personal pledge right now.
No,
Hey, you need the money.
You're not seeing my medical records for 20, not for 50. You're not seeing my medical
$5
records.
grand.
I said this. I said this a year ago.
Okay, so I just want people to remember in the future then, when Boogie says, I have to do XYZ scam to raise money because my medical bills are hurting so much, he can speak publicly about his medical issues to scam his fans to raise money, but he can't take $5,000 to privately confirm.
If it's a general statement, then why are you expressing it? Everyone's already said that. You're saying nothing.
A diagnosis that he already publicly said he has.
Everyone knows it's a tough sell. Everyone thinks, but I don't think there's a single person in chat who's unironically saying, I think Boogie's telling the truth.
And even I have a fucking limit. Even I have a fucking limit.
What's the limit, though?
It's a bad.
I understand that he, there's a big history of people, I guess, scamming people with cancer, and it's like the worst of the worst. Sure. And you're getting confronted with that right now, and your response to that is,
Go ahead.
I'm not going ahead. I'm just. I'm explaining to you.
Go right the fuck ahead. I don't.
Well, Boogie's not. He's not been asking for money from his fans. That's a slight misportrayal. He's used it to sympathy bait. He's used the cancer as an excuse for why he ran the crypto scam. He's not asked for money. He didn't set up a GoFundMe. He floated the idea of setting up a GoFundMe, but never did it. He's not, as far as I know, he's not asked for money on the back of this cancer diagnosis.
I'm not going ahead with anything.
Trying to, he's speaking to you.
No, I'm saying run with the story. I don't care.
Why we're in this situation is just that.
Why are you being so?
People view this as one of the lowest things,
if you
right?
100% believe you have polycythemia vera, why aren't you just trying to disprove that? Other than
I know that's how people are portraying it.
Because 2 years ago, I'd rather that than the.
Why would you rather that? That's so stupid.
This is the last thing I have is my medical records.
All right, do you care about
if I hand this over, I've given over literally every goddamn thing.
What if you give it directly to Destiny himself? I mean, Destiny's not going to put your fucking medical records all over the place.
Had he, and you know what? This might have turned out differently had he messaged me the night before. And we had a conversation.
Yeah. You wouldn't have nagged him for a whole night not to come out.
Oh my God, not just the confirmation.
Because I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Take care, Destiny. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Good night, guys.
Okay, so Destiny proved like
evening.
You too.
So again, Destiny gets to leave. He's riding high. Thinks he's Dr. House. All of his fans say, "Well, Destiny knows so much about medical stuff." In fact, it's not even true. I shouldn't even do that. r/Destiny actually agrees with me. There's actually been threads on there today talking about Destiny fucking up a lot of stuff during that. We'll pull up the thread that I saw earlier. Medica section was like 15 times better. We'll do the Medica section tomorrow. I will get through this stuff, but I tried to cover this. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Hello, registered ICU nurse here. I'm a big fan of Destiny's, but whenever he talks about medicine, it's very clear that he's completely out of his depth. Boogie's explanation is completely plausible, especially as a medical layman. It's possible he was essentially diagnosed with polycythemia vera in the interim so he could begin treatments based on hormone markers, which are usually very accurate, but is still receiving other tests to preclude potential diagnoses, like secondary polycythemia. Just because he has 1 or 2 gaps in his story doesn't mean he's lying. I have tons of patients who completely misunderstand everything that's happening to them and cannot correctly explain the diagnosis or the treatments of it, but they still have the condition we're treating them for. This is an extremely ignorant approach to an issue that Destiny has no actual knowledge of. You can't become a doctor by utilizing Google search. I understand to the average person, it might seem shocking that, for example, there are diseases that are diagnosed while not being 100% conclusively determined, and that there are diseases that are treated before a biopsy is performed. But this is just true. I've seen this many times in hospital settings. You need to take your mind away from what Dr. Google tells you, which is usually based on aggregate medical literature that may or may not reflect the real world, and consult some real experts. Disappointed. Thank you for the donation. Thank you, Quello, for the 1337. Okay. Clear Steve doesn't have a great base of medical knowledge, not knowing certain terms, etc. Some of his discussions on diabetes and things I've heard, just what you expect from an intelligent person with a passing knowledge to have. That said, he has a clear epistemological framework he uses to refine his knowledge and usually arrive at reliable results. And he does appropriately hedge his medical knowledge. Now, I've seen the Destiny video, about 40 minutes long, but I'm an MD and I don't feel Boogie's explanation is very light for PV. Maybe it can be said he misunderstood and thought his polycythemia was a cancer, but even so, it seems dodgy. This guy has almost every single risk factor for secondary polycythemias: OSA, COPD, I think, TRT, even just the OSA would be enough, TBH. So again, he talks about having the hormonal markers of PV, absent of bone marrow, which he said he's getting. We don't have all the clonal markers. Especially we're just looking at JAQ. Essentially, we're just looking at JAQ mutations, which if he did have, in addition to polycythemia, would be strongly suggestive of PV. I don't specifically know what diagnostic criteria used in states, but for PV, you'd usually you need increased HB or HTT and JAK mutation, and either one, and bone marrow biopsy. Some will use a low EPO. I mean, he's got the low EPO, I believe. I think some hematologists might diagnose and treat on 2 criteria, but you need all 3 to confirm where I'm from. I mean, exactly. That sounds like what Boogie's saying. This person does have PV. He'd fall into high risk PV because he previously had an MI, which means that he's treated with a cytoreductive agent. Probably hydroxyurea in the first instance. If he was intolerant to that, he might get ruxolitinib, something like busulfan, maybe. Otherwise, as he said, aspirin plus CVS, risk modification, plus phlebotomy, bloodletting. I could be very wrong, but I'm sure that most presumptively treat polycythemia with aspirin slash lifestyle modification slash potentially phlebotomy, but wouldn't use cytoreductive therapies unless they confirmed PV with at least JAK2 or a marrow. They certainly wouldn't treat with cytoreduction without these tests in someone with OSA slash TO2. I mean, but is it claimed to have been on cytoreduction? Does he come beyond that? I don't think he does. Just an aside, a not to diminish experience for anyone who does suffer from PV, but even among hematologists, these sorts of myeloproliferative disorders, PV and ET, are kind of technically cancer. Yeah, so it's a chronic illness. I get that part. Destiny just more extreme world, don't care. It's a quick found that paper that shows survival rate was better among PV than secondary. Okay, that's irrelevant to the point. So I don't think he's I just don't think the argument is. Note how he didn't directly answer the question of, did your doctor say cancer? Well, because his doctor's not going to say, he's not going to not say cancer. If they said polycythemia vera, that is a cancer. What? He said polycythemia vera, that is a form of cancer. That's how he responded. Okay. Yeah, I was diagnosed with leukemia, but my doctor didn't say cancer, so I was denied chemo. Yeah, like, what a retarded argument. Okay. And the argument's just terrible. Boogie's brother coming out and saying that he is certain that it's polycythemia vera does give me a little bit more pause. I would say I'm down to about, a 70, 75% Boogie's lying. Around the 70%, I'd say, the Boogie's lying is where I'm at. His brother's obviously got a PhD, coming out saying, to those who are trolling my brother, Boogie2988, I can confirm that his diagnosis of polycythemia vera is absolutely true. He has suffered with this debilitating condition for at least 2 years. I stake my reputation as a health professional. So I'd be interested if Boogie does prove it. That would be very funny and very epic. Somehow, I doubt that's going to happen. But hey, listen, I'll be the first one. Literally, I will be the first one to turn around and say, Boogie wasn't lying. So what's this? This was 12 hours ago. This was before that tweet. Was Keemstar saying, Boogie fake cancer drama, to the best of my knowledge, based on everything I know. Boogie went on steroids, it could cause cancer in blood years ago and was warned of the dangers. So this is wrong. Boogie's mixed things up here, it seems like. 2 years ago, he lost all his money in crypto, went to the doctor, and had high red blood cells, indicating he may have cancer blood. Sure. But no, this isn't. He's missing out a key point here, which is that they checked his hormone markers and saw low EPO allegedly. So which does signal TV. Before he got any confirmation, he rushed to make a YouTube video announcing a cancer. So no, it sounds like he did have the confirmation on the hormone results, but you could argue it's not a full confirmation of the diagnosis because it would require either testing of the mutations or the bone marrow biopsy. So there's just so much wrong here. Like, why is everyone just wrong about everything? Destiny surprises me regularly with how good he is on medical shit. That's what someone said in Spicy Chat earlier. And then when I pressed them about, why they were saying that when he was wrong about several things through the course of that confrontation, they said that was a med student saying that, yeah, that's the worst part. When I pressed them on why he was wrong about several things throughout that confrontation, they said, oh, well, Destiny knows the terminology. I was like, okay, is that really the bar for being good on medical shit? You can make a bunch of retarded statements, but as long as you know the terminology. So I'm interested. I'm super interested. I would love to know the result here. I'm very excited if there's more that comes out, because I think the arguments are terrible, and it would bring me nothing but satisfaction to find out that the 1 in a million chance has happened. Boogie is not lying for once. It would bring me nothing but satisfaction, because I can literally, I sat there and listened to it. I was like, wow, it seemed like Destiny really owned Boogie there. And I sat there and I thought about it for a bit longer. I was like, how do I know that anything Destiny said about like medical stuff is even true? And then I Googled it, and it seemed like a lot of it wasn't. Boogie is lying, but the arguments are terrible. He turned down 75k. Yeah, Boogie's proper. Honestly, seeing Destiny have to fork over 5k on live would have been, man. And Muta, pay up. Never confuse confidence with knowledge. Very true. Very true. But easily done, and very commonly done when people are just listening to debates with like half AFK while playing a video game.